One of the questions that people ask the most is, Coach, who are you? What is your story? So I felt that it was time to really share the entire of who Coach LaMonte is. I'm just a man who was a little boy who had a dream and wanted to be on television one day. And my mother, she worked for an ABC affiliate in Detroit, Michigan, WXYZ. That was easy to remember. It's WXYZ, and they were an ABC affiliate. So isn't that funny? But she would bring my brother and I to the station on the weekends. I would stare at that antenna for the longest because I knew that one day that antenna would be able to broadcast my good looks, my voice, to all the households so that they could hear encouragement. Because even at a young age, I was the one that was encouraging my family. When I would see my mother crying at night because of things that were going on, I was the one that would go into her room and encourage her. So she would bring my brother and I to the studio, and the moment I would hit that door, I would run to the television studio, and I would stare into that camera, and I would just begin to talk because I knew that my voice was relevant. And that's the same thing with everyone here. Your voices are relevant. Every word that you say, you will be accounted for. However, speak the right words at the right time to the right people because they need to hear what you have to say. Because in many cases, you are the medium between them and the grave. So use your voice wisely. So when I would stand there and stare in that camera and just begin to talk, I knew that that was what I wanted to do. And plus I had a mama who was standing there who was looking at me saying, yeah, that boy is going to do this. And she began to speak to my dream. So I would go home every day after school. For 30 minutes, faithfully every day, I would interview 3 stuffed animals in my living room. It became my talk show, and it was called 30 Minutes. And I would sit there for 30 minutes, and I would interview these same 3 stuffed animals. And I would interview and ask tons of questions. The thing that bothered me the most is that they never spoke back. And the moment that they would have spoke back, that's the moment that I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd probably be talking to bears somewhere, you know. But as this little kid that was dreaming his biggest dream, what a lot of people didn't know is at the same time, this little kid was being sexually molested by a male family member. And that was the one thing that was hard for me to balance. One part of my life was extremely inappropriate, but I knew that the other part of my life was the dream life. So I knew that the two didn't mix. So as a teenager, I would grow up and I was angry. And I was angry for a number of reasons. Number one, I didn't understand why that was happening to me and why I grew up with this. But I also didn't understand where my father was throughout all this. You know, so I was raised in a single family household, raised by my mom, who was a strong woman. And she would always tell me what was possible for me. But the voice that was void in my life was the voice of my father. His voice wasn't there. And it wasn't that my father was a bad man. He just was not the man that I needed him to be. My relationship with my father was always a questionable one because I had spent so much time of my life trying to blame him for all the things that he didn't give to me, but then I discovered his story, that he didn't have a father that gave him much of anything either. Now here I am, I'm balancing this pain that I experienced, and then I'm trying to become a man who is carrying his own pain. So I was angry. As a teenager, I was very angry. And I remember I went to a private school, and they would see me coming. They'll be like, oh man. It was that I wanted someone to see my pain and someone just to ask me, Lamont, what's wrong? And I would have been an open book. I would have told you everything. I would have spilled all the beans. Everybody would have gotten in trouble. But no one ever asked me. They never asked me why I had so much pain. They only saw what they saw. And one thing that I discovered is that we either become what we were taught, or we can run far away from what we were taught as quickly as possible. Did I want to become the man that God was calling me to become, or did I want to become the man that my father birthed and brought into this world? And I decided to be who God wanted me to be. You know, several years ago, my father passed away, and the thing that hurt me deeply was I didn't know who to mourn for. I didn't know if I should mourn for the man that he was or the man that I had always hoped that he would be. But I learned through maturity that even though he may not have given me the lessons that I always wanted, he did give me some lessons. And he showed me the direction that I should go. And that's the direction that I chose. So back in 1997, I just happened to be on lunch one day. I walked in the deli that day and didn't even know that I was walking into the deli to meet my wife. She was working there, and I spotted her, and I was like, man, she sure is attractive. She is beautiful. Wasn't thinking that was my wife. But I never said a word to her, and I saw that she was distracted, cleaning off tables, because she was a waitress there. So about a half hour later, I went back to my job, and I could not get her off my mind. It was like her face was just running through my head. Just running through my head. And I said, man, I gotta solve this issue. So I picked up the phone and I called the deli, and I said, I didn't know what I was gonna say, but I just had to get her name and maybe get her number. So it just so happened when I called the deli, she picked up the phone. And she said whatever she said, and I said whatever I said. And then I've been trying to run ever since. But we're still together, 22 years. And there's a reason why. Oh yeah, that's good, yeah. But one of the joys of my life has been being a father and being a husband, especially when you weren't taught how to do neither. I had no clue. And I say to my family and I say to my wife all the time that I'm still on the job training. I'm still trying to figure it out. I make a lot of mistakes as a man and as a father. You think that you're doing the right thing, and then it ends up that you're not doing the right thing. And one of the hardest lessons that I learned was we took a step of faith. Back in 2011, my wife and I, we were walking through the parking lot of a Walmart, and my wife said, "Do you want to move?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Where?" I said, "North Carolina." She said, "Where in North Carolina?" I said, "Charlotte." I had never been to Charlotte. I didn't know anything about Charlotte, but I liked the name, and I knew that's where I wanted to go. Sometimes I believe that what we tend to do is we can outlast seasons, and we can stay somewhere longer than what we're supposed to. And if you do that, then you can put yourself in a situation where the mantle is lifted from you, and you're no longer graced to be there. So it was time. So a month later, her and I, we drove here to kind of spy out the land to see if this is where we would want to be. And we came back to Connecticut with a good report that that's where we were being called. So a year later, to the day, we moved to Charlotte. And oh man, I was happy to be here. It was a brand new city, brand new life, and just ready to go. Had some money in the bank account, and man, we're about to build a business here, and we're gonna go ahead and do this thing. We're gonna do it big! Big with a capital B. And then 6 months later, after being here, lost everything and we were homeless. And as a man, I remember laying in the hotel room, the motel room, while my family was asleep, and I would just be crying and weeping like I was 3 years old. Because I was saying to myself, what decisions did I make to put my family in this situation? What decisions did I make that I am now destroying their lives because I'm chasing after something? But the one thing that I kept being pushed and kept hearing in my spirit was to keep going. This is just a season. This is only a test. So we walked through almost a year of one of the toughest lessons that I could have ever learned. And even through the toughest of lessons, I learned then that it was bringing my family closer. We had to be close. We were staying in a room that only had one bed, two beds sometimes. So we had no choice but to be close. One of the hardest things that my family and I walked through was not the homeless. It was when my son was diagnosed with cancer. That was one of the hardest moments of our lives because it put my wife and I in a very vulnerable position because you don't want to see your children walk through something like that. But as he walked through, I saw such a strength in him, a strength that I never had. I mean, this boy, he slapped cancer upside his head, and he made other people around him stronger. See, I stubbed my nail, and I'm like, I want to be hospitalized. I'm like, inject something, just make the pain go away. But he walked through it, and I learned a lot of lessons from him. But I remember something that my son said to me one time. And he said, if you quit, we'll never know how this turns out. And I held on to that for a long time. There were so many times that I wanted to quit. My family, they dialed into my dream. So I kept pushing. I kept getting up. I kept pushing. Even when I didn't want to get up, I crawled, but I kept pushing. Because you know and you feel the weight of something being even greater than who you are. When you sense that there's a responsibility that you carry every day, that you have to use your words to save somebody so that they can turn around and save themselves. And that's what kept pushing me. That's what made me better every day. That's what made me want to continue. My professional life is that I was always a guy that could talk himself out of anything. Anything. My teachers would catch me red-handed and I would convince them they did not see what they saw. What do you mean I was cheating off that paper? No, I wasn't. I glanced over. Okay, Mr. O, I accept that. I was getting away with it all. So after school, it only made sense that I would go into sales. So here I was in sales, and I always had this feeling that I was called to something greater. But I was working sales, and I would go in and sit down with people, and I would convince them to buy it because they needed it, and people would buy it because they didn't need it. But I was selling, and I would find myself encouraging the people that worked with me, my coworkers. So whenever they had a problem, they would come to me. If they needed somebody to pray with them, they would come to me. They needed some encouragement, they would come to me. See, and I learned a lesson about praying for people because there was this one guy. He would be like, Lamont, come here. Pray for me, please, because I'm trying to get a promotion. I want to be a manager. And I'm like, yeah, I'll pray for you, brother. I'm like, come on out. So it was always the car. Everybody always pointed to the car because they knew that's where prayer took place. And about 2 months later, he became the manager, became my boss, and wanted to fire me. Lesson learned. Just because they asked for prayer, ask for the motive first. But I sensed that there was something bigger and greater on my life. So I heard a conversation one time and somebody was saying, do you know anything about life coaching? I'm like, what is a life coach? And why do people need one? And they said, well, athletes, they all have coaches because what happens? It helps to elevate their game. So a life coach is just a person that helps to elevate someone's life. So I said to myself, that's what I need to be. So I became a life coach and I studied. And then I learned. But then I learned about people. And I learned that people just like me were hiding painful things. Just like me were going through experiences in their lives that they didn't want to talk about, that they didn't want to face. And see, it's the things that we don't conquer that will conquer us every time. It's the mountains that we don't want to face that will mount against us when they find the opportune time to do so. So I got to a place in my life, I said, before I can help anyone with their pain, I have to confront my own, because I have to face the things that I went through. I had to face the reasons why I was angry. I had to face the reasons why I was always so depressed. It was just that I was dealing with my own hidden secret pains. And I had to confront it. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most uncomfortable things, because when you confront, you have to relive. And I walked through the things that took place in me when I was younger. I had to walk through the room when it first began. I had to re-experience what the hand felt like when it first touched me. I had to walk through that. But then at the same time, it was walking through it that I was gaining my strength. It was literally like if you're walking down a path that is dark, every step you take, a light comes on. See, and darkness was behind me then, but I had a light that was before me. And I said, if I'm able to break free of my own pain, which was a pain that I thought that I would never be able to escape, I know that God has called me to help people escape their pains. And it became not only a passion, but it became a mission in my life, to make sure that everybody every day had the opportunity to change the life that God has given them. See, we all carry this one thing on the inside of us, and it's called hope. We wake up with it. We go to bed with it. We maneuver through our day with it. But it's not until you understand what hope stands for and what it means that you can begin to change the course of your life. Number one, hope to me, H means habits. I had to change the habits that I had. I had to change the first habit that I had was to punish me for something that I did not do to myself. And then I had to become more optimistic. I had to say to myself that the life that I have been given is going to be a great life. It is going to be a life that's going to be dynamic, because everything that I need is on the inside of me. And then I had to become patient, which is the hardest thing for a lot of us. You get a glimpse that it's something you're supposed to do, you expect it now. You know who I blame? I blame the microwave. Because I'm telling you, you want something made, you put it in the microwave, you have it in 30 seconds. And that's how we sometimes approach our lives and our dreams. We expect our pain to leave in 30 seconds when it took 30 years for you to understand why it happened in the first place. And then the E, I had to learn to evolve. And all those 4 elements are found in that one word, hope. So you wake up every day just knowing that the course of life that you're on is going to make sense. I know at times it doesn't seem as if it makes sense. I know at times it seems as if you're just on a merry-go-round, just going around and around and around and around. And when does it stop? When do the cycles cease? But you keep going anyway, because the cycles do end. And I was able to pull myself out of my own pain. And I said, you know what? Enough is enough. I don't have to contemplate suicide, which was a real thing for me. 20 years old. In my bedroom, overdosing on pills, because I did not think that tomorrow would come. And I was laying there wanting to die, saying to myself, it's time now. And God, if you would have set me, I'm willing and ready to see your face. And then I had a friend who had to be nosy, who had to call my mama. And she came running in my room. And you know, the very first thing she said to me was not, why did you do it? Was not, what are you thinking? She said, you took all my Sudafed? And that wasn't the last time that I would even contemplate suicide, because there were dark days. But one day, I was walking out to the mailbox, and I just so happened to look at the leaves, and it was fall. And as I'm looking at the leaves changing colors, it was all different types of colors. There were reds and greens, and I even saw blues and oranges. It was just beautiful. In my heart, I said, God, I can imagine that from heaven, these colors must look beautiful to you. And I heard in my spirit, I see no beauty in death. And then I discovered that the leaves were dying. But as they were dying, they were giving their best before they did. Those colors that were trapped on the inside of them, they said, if I'm going out, you're going to see the best of what I am before I do. And I discovered then that I wanted to give the world my best right now. So with all of my pain and all of my lessons and all of the things in my life that I had to face, I found a formula. I literally heard one day, this is your YouDay. This is the day that you wake up and you conquer life all over again. And I became YouDay. What YouDay means is that you own your story and your story no longer owns you. It means that you confront life every day. And if life pulls up and wants to fight you, you can put life in its place and say, you know what? No, I'm the one that's calling the shots here. Every day we wake up with a mission in mind. It's to be our best version of ourselves. The person that you compete with every day is the version of you that you were the day before. See, yesterday wants to hold on to the pieces of you, but today says, I got something better. And tomorrow is looking at today and saying, oh, I'm going to outdo you. And that's what YouDay became to me. It became my formula to help people to get back to where they should be in life. To find a reason to wake up every morning and to continue to live. To say to yourself, I don't care what I have to face today, I've already won. See, we don't fight for victory, we fight from a place called victory. Meaning that the moment you wake up, you've already won. And YouDay is just a reminder of that. So I invite all of you, like me, to become YouDay. I invite you every day to wake up and say, today is my YouDay. Today is the day that I take the focus off my issues and I put the focus on me. Because a better me can conquer any issue that's ever in front of me.